know I've been here once because I had rode the bus when I was here last time. Yeah, because the Civic Center is not too far from here, right? Now, let me see if you remember. There's a record shop.
Well, hello. How are you?
Doing all right. How are you?
And why are you not in school? Oh, what? Are you? Okay, I'm just retired.
There is no shadow of turning with thee.
All right, you guys, welcome to Gospel Diaries. I am so excited to present another episode, and I am in Birmingham, Alabama.
That's right.
With a queen right here. But before we even get started into the dialogue, would you please do me a favor and hit that subscription button, subscribe and share, because this is content from my heart and it's to yours. But back to the queen we got sitting here. We're talking about the Dorothy Love Coates.
That's right.
The James Cleveland Singers, the Southern California Choir, and so many more, the James Herndon Singers. How are you doing, Miss Cleo Kennedy?
I'm blessed in the Lord. God is awesome.
Who's awesome? Is it God?
What you ask, God is awesome.
Sometimes, people don't.
I try to be next to Him, so I can be awesome too.
You are awesome. We can definitely tell that God has touched you.
He has.
With his finger of love, because
Praise
He's blessed you with an incredible gift, and we're so grateful that you didn't allow it to lie dormant.
No.
That you have blessed so many people.
That's the truth.
With that talent.
Everywhere.
And I'm so excited that we have this opportunity, because we're going to delve into the wonderful world of the Gospel Harmonettes. But before we do that, I think that it's befitting to get the preliminaries out of the way. So let's talk about your upbringing. Where were you born? Let's talk about your humble beginnings.
I was born right here in Birmingham, Alabama, and I stayed here. And but my mother and my father passed away. My mom took care of all of her children because he had a stroke and couldn't do nothing. And she had to take care of him and raise us and everything. But she did a wonderful job because she kept us in church. She didn't send us to church. She took us to church. In a way. I had two sisters and one brother. So there was four of us. And all of us was born right here in Birmingham, Alabama, raised in Birmingham, Alabama. And after I got out of college, I went to Miles College for a year. Then I moved to Milwaukee for another year, and I went to Milwaukee Area Technical College for a year.
Wow.
And then I moved back from Milwaukee back here. Well, I went to California. When I came back, I went to California, and that's where I stayed until James Cleveland passed away.
Oh, wow.
And after he passed away, then I came back to Birmingham. To where I was raised from.
You came back home.
I came back home. And no place like home.
No place like home.
Our children were growing up. You couldn't just do anything. You couldn't say anything. You couldn't get in a grown people conversation or none of that, because you might get knocked out the window. And you just had to be in a child's place. And they would tell you quick, if grown people are talking and you stand there looking there, tell you, go play. This grown folks talk, and you don't have nothing to do with that. Stay in a child's place. And my mom was like that. We couldn't, if we was like we sitting here talking now, and if one of us came and stood there looking, she'd say, "Excuse me, did you ask me for something? Because I didn't hear it if you did. If you did, tell me now so you can get out of here and go back in there where you was playing, because this is grown folks conversation." But we were trained like that. My mom, she was loving. She was a good mom, did everything for us. We didn't have to want for nothing. She would work everything. And take us sometime with her to work. And if she left you at home and said, "Don't go out this house, don't open this door for nobody," I don't care if they knocked the door down. They would have to knock it down to get in, because we knew not to open it. Once I remember one time, my oldest sister, she liked my cousin, and they lived up the street from where we lived. And my mother said, "Stay right here with these children," because me and my other sister, we was the youngest. And she said, "Stay in this house with these. Don't go out this house for nothing. Don't leave this house." So after she went to work that day, Helen, her name was Helen, she wanted to slip up there anyway, because she wanted to see what Helen then was doing up at the house. And she didn't know my mom was going to get up early that day, because she didn't know herself. She came home, and me and my sister was in there by ourselves. Oh my God. She said, "Where is Laura?" Me. Up the street, it ain't Helen.
No tone over her.
She was so mad with me. And she went up to there and knocked on the door. And when she knocked on the door, it just opened. She didn't say nothing. She just walked in and said, and looked at my sister and said, come on, let's go. And we was walking back to the house. She had me by one hand and my sister, the younger sister, by the other hand. And we was walking up the street, and my sister was in the background, the oldest one, just mumbling. And my mom didn't like that. It made me see, I get tired of sitting at home with them. They just my sisters. They ain't mama. Aunt Helen did to do everything she wanted to do. And my mom was really working because she's trying to get her through school. Yes. And she talking smart and stuff. And she was just mama baby. And my mother dropped my hand, and my sister just started talking, my mama, but just loud enough for her to hear. And all of a sudden, my mom said, "What?" She hit that girl so hard she fell on the ground, and she was crawling, trying to see what the ground was. Probably not take out. Wow. And that was the last time that happened.
Yeah. But you know, with all sincerity, that's one thing. That's one core value that I think is missing is accountability. Back in the day, you know, parents knew where their children were.
Every day.
Half the time now, you ask the parents of this generation,
they don't know.
They don't even know where the kids.
They don't know.
They might not even know their children's name.
They don't even know they left the house. They don't even know when they go and come. But I bet you we couldn't do that.
Okay. I think that when it comes, a lot of people say that there's something missing from the gospel music today. And one of those things is accountability and it's conviction, because that music back in the 50s and the 60s, that music, it motivated you to better yourself. That's from my perspective. Right. I don't want to offend anyone, but it's just, you know, how I feel. And I feel that that's what's missing. And that's why it's so much chaos in the world today.
That's exactly what's missing. And then they're coming out with all this rap and all this other stuff. And the older people, you know, they're not getting anything that they need to hear because they never went into rapping and stuff because they didn't know nothing about it. They hadn't heard no rap before. And there's nothing wrong with having rapping, but having it in a way where it will reach the people.
Have some substance.
Have some substance to it. That's right. That's what
you're teaching. What are you portraying? What are you trying to convey?
They more into moving their bodies and wiggling and all of that than they is the message in the song.
Well, I'm so glad like I said before, we have oh man, I'm trying not to cry because when you think about Dorothy Love Coates, I promise you, this is a true story. I had one of her records playing, man, and I was thinking about doing something I knew I had no business doing, but listening to Dorothy Love, it pulled me to reality. You know what I mean?
Right. Let me tell you something. Saturday, one of my friends flew in, a white friend of mine flew in for my love day. He was the one responsible for Bruce and all of them sending me all this money and stuff when the house caught on fire. He said, Cleo, I'm coming to your love day because I want to be there to support you. He had already put $100 ad in the book. Then he put another 100 in the offering and all of that. And that Saturday, he took me to dinner. I wanted to take him to dinner because he's been such a blessing to me. He said, this is your birthday. I'm treating you. I came here to be a treat to you. And when I got in the car and that man started playing music, guess who was playing?
Dorothy Love Coates.
He had Dorothy Love and the Harmonettes blasting inside the car, the white man. He said, I love this kind of music.
Wow. All right, welcome back. Listen, we have an extraordinary opportunity to hear an amazing voice today. But before we get started, man, I don't know why I'm getting emotional, but I'm just so happy that I'm really about to witness Sister Cleo Kennedy sing from the depths of her soul. But right before we get started, I just want to tell this guy right here on the organ, thank you. Thank you so much for the connection. I'm talking none other than Brother Bruce Henderson. You are a phenomenal musician. We really met when you were in Chicago. I was at Cosmopolitan, and it was an instant connection. I'm just grateful that I'm able to have you in my life now. And thank you for playing so skillfully over there. And the one and only that's holding the camera, Mr. Dwayne Lacey. All right, so I don't know how we want to rock it, but
time and harvest. Oh, the sun, moon, and stars in their courses above. Oh, join with nature in many bold witness to thy great faithfulness. faithfulness, morning by morning, new mercies I see. I ever needed God's hands have already provided. Great is thy faithfulness, O God, unto me. Oh, great is thy faithfulness. Oh, great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. I ever needed God's hands, God's hands, God's hands, God's hands have already provided. Oh, great is thy faithfulness. Oh, great is thy faithfulness. Oh, great, oh, great, oh, great, oh, great is thy faithfulness. Oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, unto me.
I think that the writing comes out of whatever condition I find that I'm surrounded with a lot of times. I can give hope and more or less guarantee it through God because I've lived in hopeless despair and I was delivered. You see, now I can talk about depression. I can discuss oppression because I've lived that too. I can talk about deliverance because I've been delivered.
As a child. Well, the way I got with Dorothy Love, we lived in the same neighborhood, first of all. And my mom lived over here on this side up the street. Dorothy lived up this side. So when I would come to the corner, I would look up there and see Dorothy Love's house. And when her group, the Harmonettes, would come to rehearse at her house, I would always come up there and sit outside on the steps to listen to them rehearse. Because I loved gospel music even then. I just loved music, period. And I learned every one of the songs they were singing, sitting out there on the porch. And while and when they get ready to dismiss, then I leave and go home because I didn't want to see them sitting out there. But I was sitting on her step. So one day after she had lost a couple of the other musicians that she had, and they was getting ready to go on another tour. And she sent her sister, Lee and Cappy, told her to go to my house and ask my mother, could she talk to me? And Lee took me up to the house, and I walked in the door, and Dorothy hugged me. She said, I'm calling to see, would you be interested in singing with my group? I said, you didn't ask me that. She said, yes, I did. I was like you, I almost started crying. I said, I would love to. I love that. And I love that music. I love the gospel music all my life. And she asked my mom. My mom said, if you wanted to go, and I know you're going to take care of her, then I let her go because this is something she's been wanting to do for a long time. And that's how I started singing with Dorothy Love. And I had one rehearsal with them before I went on the road because I knew all the songs.
That's wonderful.
Sitting out there listening when they would rehearse in the neighborhood.
But gospel music liberate Black culture.
Well, when you say liberated, you mean in
uplift.
Uplift. Well, back then anyway, we stayed in church because
Okay.
your parents went to church. They took you to church, and then they sent you to church. You had to go. You had to go to church. So your upbringing was in the ministry, where the minister's preaching and teaching you stuff. You're learning. And when we would get home, my mom would say, what did y'all learn in church today?" She
You
would
had a little
ask,
homework. Okay.
and then she'll say, "Well, what did the preacher preach about?"
Mm.
And you sitting there thinking for a minute because you got to think of something, tell her that made sense. Because you said something stupid, she might pop you. And you had to tell her something. And I said, well, he taught on love today. He taught on families today, sticking together. He taught on praise and worship, stuff like that. We had to give her something to let her know
Wow.
we really was listening to the service. Because if you couldn't tell her nothing, you wasn't in the service because your mind was not
Come
there.
on, watch out.
And that's what we had to.
Yes.
And I fell in love with it then, and I'm still in love with it today.
Yes.
Those songs, even if they was gonna be in my spirit, they had to make some sense. And when you sing a song like, if you do a song like, "Oh Lord, have mercy, oh Lord, have mercy, oh Lord," now you do all of that. That's a touching song because you're asking God to have mercy on you. And then you stuff like, "Bless this house, oh Lord, we pray, make it safe by night and day." That made sense to me because you're asking God to bless your house each day. Make it safe. Cover us with your
Come
blood,
on,
God.
somebody.
We need deliverance. We need saving. We need somebody that's going to watch over us. And we know you can when nobody can because you're a God and you know all things and you can do everything.
Wait a minute.
And all I got to do is ask.
Wait a minute.
That's right.
Wait, stop. Wait a minute. Wait, no, they didn't tell me you were an evangelist. What's going on? What is this? Bruce, it's shit.
I know it's evangelist, but I love the truth and I love gospel. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Well, on that note, listen, we're going to take a short musical intermission. Man, I'm so glad. Would you please tell a neighbor and a friend that we have the lovely, look at her, the lovely Miss Cleo Kennedy with us, man. We'll be right back. Oh, my God. All right, so it's recorded that in 1940, that was the year that five courageous women, Mildred Miller, Odessa Edwards, Willie Mae Newberry Garth,
Right.
Vera Knobb, and Evelyn Starks Hardy
Very,
at the
very
piano.
Cobb.
Cobbs.
Uh-huh.
Okay. At the piano, Evelyn Starks, and they organized the Gospel Harmonettes.
Right.
Now, I use the word courageous because of the uproar that was caused by the gospel blues in that era.
Right.
Because it was so, you didn't want to do too much to be too edgy at that
Right.
particular time
Exactly.
because they was really reluctant to even bring a gospel type of song or
Right.
style, in the
That's
Protestant,
true.
most Protestant church. Well, the South was a little bit different,
Right.
because they were already adapted to like a lot of blues and things of that sort, but not in the church per se.
Right.
All right, so around the time that you joined the Gospel Harmonettes, tell me about their reputation in Birmingham.
When Dorothy brought me to the group and put me in, they automatically, right away looked like everyone I fell in love with me. And that was to the point where I was saying, I ain't no child, I'm grown too.
Okay.
They were telling me, come back up, don't go over there. So men be sitting over there talking and stuff, and they be waving, I wave back, get over here. I can't speak. They loved me and they protected me. Dorothy didn't let nobody come near me. And when she would get up in the morning to go to the broadcast before the concert that day, she had two daughters that was with us, and she would always get me to come sit in the room with them while she did her broadcast. And I would stay until she come back, and then I go back to my room. But she trusted me with them, and she felt better knowing I was in there with them. They were just sitting there by themselves because her oldest daughter had epilepsy and she had seizures and stuff like that. So she needed somebody in there that could call for her because the other girl was real young, Carletta. That was her husband's youngest daughter. Her name was Carletta. She was named after Carl Coates. But anyway, I would go and watch her and do whatever she asked me to do. But they loved me and they were so protective over me until I didn't have to worry about one thing. And I remember one incident. It was funny to me. I still laugh and I see it. We was in this particular hotel, and I was sitting in my room making a towel roll out of towels, sorted on my hand, and these police came up on that floor, and they had the right room number, but the wrong room. They was not my room had the same room number to the room on the floor that they was looking for, and they knocked on the door, and at first I didn't say nothing because I knew Mills never right across the hall, and I knew it wasn't them, and he knocked again, and I didn't open the door for anybody because they always said, "Don't ever just open the door for anybody." Doctor, all of them they tell you that, so I didn't open it. They took their foot and they kicked that door open. And I was sitting on the side of the bed with this towel rope in my hand. And I knew Mills was across the hall. And I had the towel up like this. And I said, them two.
Lord have mercy.
They said, well, if they took you to jail, we'd all been to jail for nothing. I wasn't going by myself, I tell you that. They knocked that door open. And I couldn't think of nothing to say. It scared me so bad, I just started saying, them two, and pointing to their door.
Did they take y'all in custody?
No, they had the wrong room.
They
apologized so. Even when I went down the next day, they wanted to give me free food and everything.
Did you take it? Never mind. I know the answer now. How you joined the Gospel Harmonettes, most of their music was popular in the gospel circuit.
That's right.
So
very
we're talking
popular.
about like 1951.
Right.
Every day will be Sunday.
Every day will be Sunday. Bye. That's right. Show it.
1952. He's right on time.
Right on time. That's right. He's calling me. All of that.
1954. He's calling me.
That's right.
1959. Finish line.
Oh, that always comes out of winter at the finishing line.
That woman, and you know what? She was a
song. She could write. She could write a song in 5 minutes. I mean, that it made sense, and she would put the background and everything to it within them 5 minutes. And she'll say, "This is what I want y'all to sing, and this is what I'm gonna sing, and this is what I want you to say, and this is what I want you to hit a high note." Because I hit a lot of high notes in there. They call me the high note queen. But anyway, when she got through with it, it was ready for stage. And every time she hit that stage, people go, wow.
Right here, because I have to be obedient. I'm recalled of a story, Reverend Harold Bailey of Chicago, the Harold Bailey Gospel Singers. He said that he invited the Harmonettes to one of his annual programs. He said after the program, everybody was downstairs congregating and everything like that. And he looked and he thought to himself, he said, well, where's Dorothy?
Uh-huh.
And he got to looking, he said, went off to the side and says he met Dorothy on her knees praying to God.
That's what she do. She would.
You remember stuff like
I
that?
remember stuff like that. And when she get on the program, other gospel singers be talking about, don't put me behind her. Don't what you got me on this? Let me see what my name is. They didn't want to come behind Dorothy for nothing. And they would tell and Dorothy would tell them, I don't care where you put me. I'm gonna do the same thing I'm gonna do before or after. She said, so put them wherever they want to be because we're gonna all still be on this program.
Wow.
And she would wait. It didn't bother her because while they were saying she was praying. And when she hit that stage, it was over. It was a man in Ohio. We was at this church, and church had these glass doors that you come in and out into the sanctuary. This was a glass door. And Dorothy was saying, it was on Mother's Day. That woman was saying, that man took a running start, and that man went straight through that glass door. He went straight through it and didn't have a scratch on him.
My God.
It scared everybody so bad. I mean, I thought I'd swallow my tongue. It scared me so bad. I couldn't say nothing for a few minutes because it shocked me so bad. But that man went, his whole body, he could have put it stood back in front of it and his feet from head to toe. He went straight through that glass and broke it and everything and didn't have a scratch on him. But baby, when Dorothy hit the stage, you didn't have to wonder about it because I don't care where you put it, she's gonna get the house. James Cleveland was like that too. I don't care where you put him on that stage, he gonna get the house every time. And everywhere we went and had concerts and things, he never failed to me. I'm here, Cleo. I said, oh God, what do you want me to do now? Because I never know what he's gonna say. He'll just sit up there, and while you stand there waiting to see what he wants, he's saying in your ear, do this. God has smiled on me. Oh yeah. That's me showing me how to do it. And if you don't do it right, he'll say, repeat after me. I. And they'll say I. He said am. They'll say am. Dumb.
Wow.
But he would do it in love. But they know because they would be laughing and stuff. But
he was so comical.
But that man didn't ever leave me out on stages.
No, thank you, James, for your work. Listen, Dorothy Love Coates was a stone cold poet. I mean, she wrote stuff like, he's a God that... Wait,
you can't hurry.
Hold on.
He'll be there, don't you worry.
Hold on for a moment.
He may not come when you want him, but he's right on time.
Wait, let's rewind this. He said, he's a God
that you
cannot hurry.
Don't rush him.
He said, but don't worry. All right, well, no.
He'll be there.
Said, but he'll be there.
Don't worry.
Don't you worry.
He may not come when you want him.
Who comes up with something like, and so accurate too?
Dorothy Love.
Question, when you all were recording, did she come up with, I know you said that she came up with songs like in a rehearsal setting,
right?
Like in the studio setting, did she come up with something? Did you all was it improvisation in the studio?
Not really, because we really, in the studio, we recorded what we had learned that we was going to do in the studio. And they would stick to that. She might change a line or two or something during the session to if she hears something, and she'll say, I know I told you to say it like this, but say this part like this today, and it's going to be better for the recording. She'll do stuff like that, but it always made sense.
Wow. Now, let's talk a little bit about the terror of the South at the time that you were with because you joined the Harmonettes in what year? What year was that? I forget, Lord. It had to be 1966.
It was 60s.
It was 1966, right. 1966, 1965. I meant to say. So this is right before King's assassination.
Right, exactly.
The Birmingham bombing had already happened in 1963. Right. I mean, the 60s was a decade never to forget. So let's talk about that. She
always said when she would do in her talking and her preaching, I say before a song or after a song or whatever, she would always say, the only thing that's missing in the world is love. Real, genuinely, to the heart, love for one another. She said, if we would learn how to love everybody, regardless of race, creed, or color, because God made every one of them and He gave everybody the color He wanted them to be. So who are you to say I don't like you because you black? Who are you to say I don't like you because you white? You didn't make you and I didn't make me. So God made us all. So y'all need to learn how to love everybody, because if you're going to see Jesus, that's what you're going to do anyway.
Yes,
Other
yes.
than that, you're hellbound. And
Oh,
she would tell him that, and she would put it in all her speeches about, you know, the stuff that was happening in the South and how people was, you know, fighting the people and teaching the children all this hate and stuff, and not letting them don't want them to go to school together, don't want them to do anything. You can't, they don't even go to the same churches. Black people don't even want to go to the white church, and the white church don't want to come to the black.
No integration.
That don't make no sense. That's integration. But she taught it against all of that. Every time she would get up, she would have something to say about it and why it's that way and how it should be. She always left with that. She'll let them know what they should be doing.
You know, commuting back and forth across the country. Let's talk about those road trips. Who drove? What kind of car did you drive?
Well, they had to get the best kind of cars to put on the road, because
okay.
there was a lot of traveling and stuff. And Dorothy Love's husband used to drive for Harmonettes, but he also was sung with the Sensational Nightingales, because he was a nightingale.
Yes.
And he sung bass with them. But anyway, when they didn't have concerts, he would drive on the Harmonettes so that we could sleep and rest up to get to where we're going.
And how long was these road trips? Like, did you?
They were different. They depend on where you're going. But baby, we rode, and they would pack the trunk. And I had watched him pack the trunk, so one day he wasn't there to pack, and I had watched so good. So they were trying to get this bag in the trunk. I said, what y'all need to do is take all this stuff back out and put it on the ground, because you put it all in wrong. And they said, how you know? I said, trust me. Can I go sit down somewhere else, okay? And I waited. They toughened to try to get all these bags in there, because you got to get everybody's bag in there, because all of them got to go. But I had watched Carl turn these bags certain ways to get it in there to make it fit. And I had mastered that thing, and they didn't know it. So they worked that down. Looked like about an hour trying to get the bag in the car. I said, now, if you want to get it in there, I'm going to tell you what to do. You can do it if you want. If you don't, you ain't going to get it in there. We're going to be late leaving. So what you say do? I said, take that bag right there, that big one right there, and put it all the way back up in there, far back as you can get it, and take that little bag and put it up on top of that big one, and so you have space in front of this big bag. Then put the next big bag in there next, and then put a bigger bag on the top of that one, because it's a smaller bag. And when they got through, everyone I went in there, they looked at me like I was crazy. I said, I told you I knew what to do.
About cargo. Okay, so when you all were on the road, like, how did you? I know it seems kind of simple or plain, but I want to know, how did you all wash your clothes? Or where did you all stay? Like,
see, when they stayed in hotels, most of the time they would get hotels that had a laundromat in the hotel.
Oh.
Some of them had downstairs. Some of them had washers and dryers in there. And when we went to a place that we were gone long enough, because we used some cities, we stayed a whole week before we left. So they'll find a laundromat and pick one day to go and wash up all your stuff at the laundromat, fold it up, put it back in your bags, and then you're going to the next city. It was a method.
Wow.
You just had to know, how long am I going to be in this city?
Interesting.
We're going to be here 3 days. We're going to be here 7 days.
Wow.
We're going to be this one 2 days. So we all right with that. And you didn't need no clean stuff until about almost the end of that week, because you got enough clean stuff in your bag to use, for the week. And that's what we did. And if you messed up one of your robes or whatever, if you was in a city for like a week, you had time to put it in the cleaners and get it back the next day. So that's what they did.
Okay, now who was the navigator?
There's always one in the group they always had one in the group that's gonna deal with the finding the laundromats and all that stuff like that, from the people at the desk downstairs, and they would tell you where to go. And then they had these shuttle buses that would take you and come back and get you and bring you back. Shuttle buses, just like they got shuttles now. They had shuttles back then, but they had them more than they did here in the South. But they had them, and you learn the method, and then you work it, and that's what we did.
So who did most of the driving on these
Carl all of them could drive, but me
Don't
and
say
Betty.
all them. Oh, okay, but you
All
said
of
but.
them,
Okay.
but me and Betty.
Okay.
But I had to sit in the middle most of the time because I didn't drive,
Smallest.
and they want to sit by the window so they lay their head up against the window to sleep. And I said to myself, "Oh, sleepyhead thing." I'm tired of sitting in this middle. I want to sit at the door sometime. I want to look out the window too. Your hand away. I can't remember not one time the group got in an argument where we was fussing and ready to fight and all that. In Dorothy's group, that never happened when I was in there.
Wow.
Not one. I'll tell you what happened one time. We was recording, and we was in Nashville, Tennessee, and the group was all around the mic, and I was in the center. And every time they would sing, my boys would travel over theirs, and then they moved me back a little bit. Then they do it again. My boys still traveled over theirs because my voice was keen and it was high. So every time they would get ready to tape it, my voice would be louder than the background. So the last time the man said, "I tell you what I'm gonna have to do." He said, "I don't mean no harm." He said, "But if we want this song to come out right on the taping, we're gonna have to move you all the way back to that door back there." They made me go all the way, and I was back from where we are now to my window back there. Wow. And I stood back there and sang my part, and they was all around the mic. And when they played it back, it sounded like I was standing right there by them. I couldn't believe it myself. I said, "What kind of voice I got?"
A golden from God.
And it was just that high. And they way back there. I said, I ain't never had to sing integrated.
You know, like your gift, you don't inherit it. You don't inherit something so precious as your gift. Because you can't pass that down the line.
Right.
That came straight from God.
It came from God. I said, "God, can you tone me down a little bit?" Because they integrating me now. Okay. I don't like singing back here by myself. And all them up there, they can't put their arm around me like I put mine around them when we sing and stuff. I'm back here by myself. I got to hug the door.
So on VJ Records, I believe it was in I'll say circa 1966. You led a song, "I'll Tell It," with the Gospel Harmonettes, and what an out of sight performance that was. What do you remember about that first recording with the Harmonettes?
Baby, I was so honored. I didn't know what to do. I said, "Lord, I'm finna sing on a real record."
Really?
A real record.
Okay.
These other folks got records. I said, "I'm on a record now." Now, give me credit. Buy my record. But it was an honor. I felt so good behind it, and they played it a lot too.
Really?
They was playing it all out of town and everything. People was playing it, and they was calling Dorothy, telling her, "I love that song." I tell her, "What that lady's name?" And she said, "Cleo Kennedy."
Did you hear it on the radio ever?
Yeah, I heard it. I heard. Yeah.
What was the station that they had here? Do you remember?
What was from far station? WAGG, WAYE.
Oh wow.
AYE.
Wow.
Sure did.
All right, so 1967, you did a song entitled "Give Me Strength." Now, your voice detailed a very youthful Cleo Kennedy, but it didn't include the eloquence of that didn't exclude the eloquence of your delivery. Literally, I had to listen to it, of course, as I was prepping for this interview. And I must say that it fortified me. Like I was so inspired when I heard your voice. Yeah.
If the Lord give me strength, I'll make it. Yeah. Yes, I will. That was it.
And get out of my notes. What that say? What that say right there? That was the line that pulled me.
That's right. If the Lord give me strength, I'll make it. Yes, I will.
All right. So now, also, you've had the privilege and the honor of sharing lead with the iconic Dorothy Love Coates. One song that I think is remarkable is "Human Bondage."
Oh,
remember that?
Yeah, I remember.
Let's talk a little bit about that.
Human Bondage. Dorothy used to talk about. She used to teach us about all these songs that she write. She didn't just teach the song. She stopped at a point in there and talked about it and told us why she wrote them a lot of times and what it meant to her. The reason why God gave it to her to record, and she would talk about it. And like she said, the Lord give us strength. We can always make it because He done gave you strength to make it, and He done gave it to you. But it's up to you to receive it. And if you receive it, you'll make it. If you don't receive it, you ain't gonna make it. So that's the way she taught stuff. So she gave you the meaning of it. A lot of fun.
And listen, Gospel Diaries, if you all never heard the song, please take a listen to it because Human Bondage, it really colorfully and very descriptively, it depicts just the inequality that was, well, it's still inequality
Right.
still today, but it was a very personal a scope into, you know, the past of what was going on. So I think that was a remarkable time.
Right.
But I forgot to ask you this. When you joined the group, from your memory, who was the personnel? What was the roster?
What was the what?
Roster. Who were the members when you joined?
When I joined, Dorothy Love, Mildred Howard, William A. Goff, Lady McCaffrey, Lady McCaffrey, Johnny Gaines, because Evelyn wasn't there no more.
Mm-hmm.
And Evelyn, she was the only one.
Evelyn
and Vera Cobbs. I took Vera's place.
Right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So those are the only two that was not singing with the group. The rest of them were still with me.
But did you ever get a chance? Did you ever get a chance to sing? And Evelyn actually back you up, or how?
No, because when Evelyn stopped singing for the group, she stopped playing for this what's that big church? Sixth Avenue. She stopped playing for them.
History on today.
Sixth Avenue.
Okay.
She stopped playing for Sixth Avenue,
Mm-hmm.
and she was never with the group no more
Mm-hmm.
after that.
Mm-hmm. So I have a discography. Brother Dwayne over there, I'm sure you know which one I'm talking about. The one from 1943 to 1969. I can't think of the guys. The two books. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, it's a beautiful attempt to collect everything. But they were uncertain about a few of the musicians and things. So I want to ask you now: did you ever get a chance to record with Pee Wee Herbert Picard?
No, because he was before me.
Okay.
That's how I came after that.
Okay. And he was never like just a guest.
I knew him. I knew
Okay.
him, but I didn't. He was singing with Dorothy. I wasn't with her at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And 1943 was when my birthday was, when I was born.
Okay. Wow.
1943.
And last but not least, before we move on to the Herndon Singers and James Cleveland, let's talk about Dorothy's playing. A lot of people don't really pay attention to that, but that woman can show up.
Play. Yes,
now,
she can play. She can play in the rehearsal. She played in the rehearsals.
Really?
A lot of times in the rehearsal. And the musicians, they didn't get it till we got going where we going, and then she'd get a room and we go in and she'd teach them a song. Then they learn to play it right then. Mm-hmm. But she been rehearsed with us with the piano in her house, because she had a piano in her living room, and we all just sit around and learn the songs right there. And she would play it and give everybody parts and everything. Wow. She sure did.
All right, you guys. I hope you all are enjoying this. You know, I'm thinking I've never done this before. I think I'm gonna do 2 parts because I'm gonna say there's no need, and it's impossible to leave out any of this. And I need to share it, but I want to make it a suitable length so that people can watch one half and go back to the other half. But we're gonna do, because I'm not gonna cut and paste too much out of this, because we're talking good on tonight. Or what nighttime is it? What time is it?
I told Bruce, I said, I don't know what he's looking for. I said, I hope I can answer his question.
Oh, you did wonderful.
And he told me, he gonna come from the beginning when you was born and where y'all live and all that. So that he gonna ask stuff like that, and he doing just that. You was right one time in your life.
Hey, listen, for you guys out there, I want you all to see. She's talking about the one and only Mr. Bruce Henderson. Yeah. That is the maestro right there. We will hear from him later on. And matter of fact, we got this guy right here. You should know who that is. That's Mr. Roaches himself.
Wow,
Dwayne Lacey. Wow. And on that note, we'll be right back, and we'll see you later.